The Muppets have been making people laugh for decades, but how well did they actually do at the box office? From the road trip charm of the Muppet movie to the Disney-era comeback The Muppets, some films made huge profits, some just scraped by, and one completely missed. Today, we're breaking down every theatrical Muppet movie, budgets versus earnings to see which were hits, and which one became the franchise's only real flop. 1. The beginning, The Muppet Movie, 1979. Alright, let's go back to 1979. Today it sounds normal. Puppets in movies, family musicals, talking animals everywhere. But back then, this was a genuine gamble. Sure, The Muppet Show was popular on TV. Families watched it every week. People loved the characters. But television popularity doesn't automatically sell movie tickets. Sitting at home for 30 minutes is easy. Buying a ticket and spending 2 hours in a theater? Totally different commitment. And the studio knew that. The budget was about $8 million. Pretty small, even for the late 70s. This wasn't a giant blockbuster attempt. It was more like, let's try this and hope people care. The story was simple. Kermit leaves his swamp, heads to Hollywood, and meets friends along the road. A road trip movie, songs or jokes, and a lot of heart. What really worked was the tone. The movie didn't shout. It didn't try to look huge. It just felt honest, and audiences connected with that instantly. The film ended up making around $65 million worldwide, over 8 times its budget. But the real success wasn't just numbers. People went back to watch it again. Kids sang Rainbow Connection outside theaters. Adults got emotional over a frog playing a banjo. That's when Hollywood realized something important. This wasn't a TV gimmick. Muppets could carry a real movie and a real franchise was born. 2. The Great Muppet Caper, 1981. So after the first movie surprised everyone, the studio faced the classic sequel question, go bigger or stay small? They chose bigger. The budget almost doubled to about $14 million. Suddenly, the Muppets weren't just traveling down highways anymore. Now they were in London, inside fancy hotels, chasing jewel thieves, riding bicycles and musical numbers. You could feel the extra money on screen. The movie looked richer, louder, more ambitious. And honestly, it was fun. Really fun. But the reaction changed. The film made around $31 million worldwide. That's still profit, still successful. Nobody was panicking. But compared to the first movie's massive return, the drop was noticeable. Why did it happen? Because the first film felt like discovering something new. Audiences didn't know what a full Muppet movie would even look like. By the sequel, the surprise was gone. People enjoyed it. They just didn't rush back multiple times. Over the years, it became a fan favorite, maybe even one of the funniest entries. But in theaters, it wasn't an event anymore. It was entertainment, still profitable, just less magical. 3. The Muppets Take Manhattan. By the third movie, the creators understood something important. The Muppets work best when they feel small and personal, so they pulled things back. The budget dropped again to around $8 million. No giant international adventure this time. Instead, the gang heads to New York trying to put on a musical, chasing a dream, getting rejected, struggling to stay together. It felt closer to real life and closer to the spirit of the first film. The box office landed around $25 million. Not huge, not disappointing either, just steady. And honestly, that was the point. This movie didn't depend on spectacle. It depended on how much audiences cared about the characters. At this point, a clear pattern appeared. Muppets weren't opening weekend giants. They were comfort movies. People didn't rush. They returned slowly, bringing kids, cousins, neighbors. Theaters didn't explode with crowds, but the brand stayed alive, carried by affection instead of hype. 4. The Muppet Christmas Carol, 1992. After Jim Henson passed away, a lot of people quietly wondered if this was the end. The Muppets had always felt tied to his voice.
It's about a couple of kids that come to New York City to get married and has a
his humor, his personality. Without him, the future looked uncertain. So the team made a surprising choice. Instead of going bigger, they went classic. They adapted Charles Dickens, a full story, real emotions, even a little sadness, mixed with jokes. The budget was around $12 million, and the movie earned a little over $27 million in theaters worldwide. So financially, respectable, nothing huge. But numbers don't tell the whole story here. The film became a holiday tradition. Families watched it every December. Kids grew up with it. Parents showed it to new kids years later. VHS tapes wore out. TV reruns never stopped. This wasn't just a movie anymore, it became a ritual. The Muppets proved they could survive past one generation, maybe even forever. But we're not done yet. Because there's one movie in this lineup that quietly broke the streak, the only Muppet film that didn't manage to win over theaters. Curious which one it was? Stick around, we're about to get into the flop next. 5. Muppet Treasure Island, 1996. By the mid-90s, family movies were louder and faster, so the Muppets leaned into adventure. Pirate ships, sword fights, huge performances, big theatrical songs. The budget climbed to about $31 million. The box office landed in the mid-30s in the US and higher worldwide. Not a blockbuster, but safe. And just like the Christmas film, its real life began after theaters. Kids rented it again and again. Schools performed the songs. It quietly lived on. At this point, the brand had shifted. Theater runs were just one part of the profit. Home viewing was becoming just as important, and then came the turning point. 6. Muppets from Space, 1999. And here it is, the one that broke the streak. Budget, about $24 million. Worldwide box office, roughly $16 million. For the first time ever, a Muppet movie didn't make its money back in theaters. So what went wrong? First, the songs were mostly gone. That sounds minor, but music had always been the emotional glue of the Muppets. The moments people remembered were usually musical moments. Without them, the film felt strangely quiet. Second, the tone shifted. Instead of a story about putting on a show or chasing a dream, it became a sci-fi mystery about Gonzo's alien origins. More parody, less heart. And third, the late 90s audience had changed. Kids were growing up on huge animated spectacles and shiny digital effects. Next to that, practical puppets suddenly looked old-fashioned. The movie wasn't hated, people who saw it often liked it. So families skipped theaters and waited for VHS. And for the first time in 20 years, the franchise stopped. No new theatrical movie followed for over a decade. 7. The Comeback, The Muppets, 2011. After more than 10 years away from theaters, Disney brought them back. And interestingly, they didn't try to modernize the characters. They went back to basics. Songs, friendship, putting on a show, chasing a dream. The budget was about $45 million, and the movie earned around $165 million worldwide. A huge success for this kind of film. The marketing played it smart. Adults who grew up with the characters felt nostalgic, while kids met them for the first time. Parents weren't just taking children to the movie. They wanted to go themselves. It became the biggest Muppet hit since the original. The message was clear. Audiences didn't want a reinvented version. They wanted the classic feeling, played sincerely. 8. Muppets Most Wanted. Then came the sequel, bigger budget, over $50 million. Box office, about $80 million worldwide. Not a flop, but clearly a drop after the comeback hit. Audiences still liked it, the jokes worked, the songs worked, but the urgency disappeared. The feeling of they're finally back only happens once. Now it felt like optional fun instead of a must-see event, and that changed Disney's strategy. Instead of pushing more theatrical releases, the Muppets moved towards specials and streaming projects. The big screen era paused again. So, were the Muppets profitable? Surprisingly, yes. Out of 8 theatrical movies, only one truly lost money. Several earned steady profit, 2 became major hits, because honestly, the Muppets were never just about money. They were about songs, chaos, friendship, and that weird feeling that a frog and a bear can make you emotional for no logical reason. Now I want to hear from you. Which Muppet movie do you think deserved to be the biggest hit and which one didn't earn what it should have? Drop your opinions in the comments and I'll be reading them. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next deep dive. Until then, keep believing in the Rainbow Connection.